It is now 6:03, and we'll start this council workshop meeting, December 3rd, 2025, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First is an opportunity for citizens to be heard. So if there's any comment anybody would like to provide on borough government, now is your opportunity. Not seeing anybody jumping up. Steph, do we have anybody by Zoom?
We do, but no hands up.
Okay, then we'll move into presentations. I know we're waiting for Officer Tadero, so we're going to go a little bit out of order. Sorry, Sergeant Van Volkenberg. I'm used to it's been corporal so long. I have to still get used to sergeant. And we'll go to the Carlisle Youth Council proposal. Amir, if you want to step up, and we'll just need your name and address for the record.
So make sure.
The button again. Did you show him the button? I did show him the button because I thought so. It turns the little green light on. Maybe. I was trying to make it so it wasn't so hard this time. There we go.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Just be careful touching it. Yeah, just push it like at the very bottom until the green light comes on. Oh, can you have it again? I think so, because it's all right. Position the microphone.
Okay, I think that works. Perfect.
Hooray!
Okay, sorry about that. All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Amir Mustafik. I live at 1228 Pheasant Drive South. I'm a junior at Carlisle High School, and I'm here to talk about opportunity for young people in Carlisle who don't have a real place to share their voice. Carlisle is the youth's home. Some of us were born here, some of us were moved here, but we all walk the same streets and we all drive along the same streets and walk along the same crosswalks and sidewalks every day. We use the same parks, we go to the same schools, and we see this town through a young person's eyes. And because of that, there's something we feel deeply about. We're impacted by local decisions and we're never part of making them. I'm not up here to say that adults don't care, because many of you do, and I can be certain of that. But I'm up here because there's not a structured way to let the youth be constantly heard. Right now, students have ideas, concerns, experiences, and solutions that never make it into borough discussions simply because there's no structured and organized pathway to get them there. The youth are the ones crossing the streets near schools where traffic might feel dangerous. The youth are the ones hanging out in parks where lighting could be better. The youth are the ones that know which events reach teens and which ones don't. The youth feel the impact of zoning, public safety, sidewalks, recreation, and community programs every day. But none of that reaches the borough in an organized and official way. Right now, youth engagement is based on luck. If somebody by chance happens to speak up, if somebody by chance happens to listen, and if the timing is truly right. The Youth Council changes that. It turns luck into professional structure. It turns random comments into consistent communications. It creates a real and respectful pathway between young people and the borough. I just want to say what the Youth Council actually is. It's not some school club. It's not symbolic. It's not some kids who are just trying to play government. It's a real advisory body made with bylaws, committees, monthly meetings, officer rules, research, reports, and real youth recommendations. The Youth Council would include students ages 14 to 19 who apply, commit, and serve. We'd have elective officers trained to act professionally, and we've had one youth representative along with the the president of the Carlisle Borough Youth Council to attend borough meetings to share youth updates, experiences, and solutions. This means that youth perspective stops just being the background and becomes part of the conversation. What the youth can offer is a wide variety. So, one thing adults sometimes underestimate about young people, not anyone specific, is how much young people actually notice. The youth know which sidewalks feel unsafe because we walk them every day. The youth know which parks matter most to teens, which ones are used more, which ones are undervalued, and the youth understand mental health in a way no report is able to capture. The youth know how to communicate with other young people, and the youth knows what keeps students involved and what pushes them away. And what is most important is that we care. Even though it might not always seem that we do, trust me, we do. And the youth just need a place to be able to bring that energy, to show and participate, and to show that we care. And that's what the Youth Council would give us. I just want to take a moment to kind of show what first year would be like. First year, it would be specifically designed to create a strong foundation for the years to come. We would recruit committed students, adopt bylaws, train officers, and launch committees. Then we would deliver our first formal youth recommendation. It could either be about something park upgrades, pedestrian safety, maybe a new youth event that can get the youth involved and participate in. But I can assure you that will be based on real research and a real youth perspective. Later in the year, we would host a youth town hall to ensure that all youth voices, even not on the council, are heard. And by the end of year one, we would present an annual youth report to the borough, which would be a summary of youth issues, projects, recommendations, future plans. And at the end of the year, the youth council would be fully formed and ready to continue for years and hopefully long after I graduate. So what does Carlisle gain from this? This isn't about just helping youth, it's about helping the whole borough as well. Carlisle gains clear information and fewer blind spots. Youth can see things that adults simply can't. Not out of ignorance, but out of different and diverse experiences. Carlisle gains stronger community connections, and instead of the youth feeling ignored, they feel included. And for what I'm seeing, the youth that feel included become adults that stay involved. Carlisle gains future leadership. I'm sure not every student would run for office one day, but however, many will become more civic minded, more engaged, more responsible, and more committed to serving their community. This isn't some one and done thing, it's a long term investment in Carlisle's future stability, culture, and civic health. I just want to point out that I'm not doing this for a title. I'm not doing this to say, hey, I started the Carlisle Borough Youth Council, but I'm doing this because I know what it feels like to be a young person who cares but doesn't have a place to plug into. I want to make sure that doesn't happen for the future generations. If approved, I'm committed to serving as the founder, the first year president, and the youth council representative. I'll attend meetings, train officers, mentor the next president, and make sure the council is set up to thrive even after I'm gone. My goal isn't to build something that depends on me, but my goal is to build something that can thrive without me. Carlisle has always been a community that values connection, growth, and listening to its people. The next step is opening the door for youth, not just occasionally, not just unofficially, but formally, structurally, and consistently. We don't simply want to be spectators in Carlisle's future. We want to help guide with respect, responsibility, and commitment to it. So tonight, I come up here to ask for approval to establish the Carlisle Borough Council. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your belief in the next generation of Carlisle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amir, and thank you to Deputy Mayor for connecting with Amir and getting this presentation pulled together. Very thoughtful, and the written proposal is more than we get sometimes. So that was excellent. I'll just note a couple of things that I think paved the way for something like this. Is one, there's an empty seat down at the end of the dais here. And that's usually for the law school ambassadorship, but since they're sort of restructuring between the Carlisle site and State College, I don't expect that to come back anytime soon. It may eventually, but there's physical space for a high school ambassador or liaison, whatever we want to call it. Additionally, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendation calls for a position like an ambassadorship from the high school too. So this really fits really well. We haven't implemented that yet. So just on those bases, I completely support this. And there are a lot of head nods up here. So I imagine we're ready to move ahead with this, and we can formalize it probably by the January meeting. Is there anybody want to provide any comments, questions? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that everybody seems like really jazzed about this, and that there might be some competition on how to get involved as far as which council member gets to maybe be a little bit more involved with this initiative. I would also recommend that if you want, the Parks and Recreation Board is meeting tomorrow at Stewart Community Center. I'll be there. Or sorry, no, we're not. Parade is tomorrow. Sorry, I thought I saw it on the website, but I think that I was wrong. So reconvening in January. I will be there. February. Correct. I'm just passing on bad information. I apologize. We're getting there. But I will be there. The Parks Director will be there. You should come. I know that they would love to hear from you guys about park usage, especially as we move in towards the plan that they're putting into place for a long-term vision for the parks. So super excited. This is awesome. Would love to be involved. Great job.
I too. I absolutely love this idea. I know years ago, something like this, I don't think it was where they were necessarily working with the council, but they started like a youth council or whatever, where they were getting involved in really trying to understand issues and, use their voice. I think this is amazing. I love the idea. Any way that I can help, even if it's from a distance or whatever, I would love it. Yeah, this is good. This is good.
Thank you. And I also would like to add something if possible. This wouldn't entirely be just a student led, but we would also appoint from, of course, someone from the council as a borough liaison who can more clearly communicate with the borough and also give us information if we might miss something, or just the communication clear through the council and the borough. Just want that.
Great. Anyone else have any comments or questions?
I do.
Go.
Hello again. Thanks for meeting with me. It was a really fun conversation, and I'm super excited to have you present, and you did incredibly well. Not like I thought there would be any question, but you actually it was amazing. I would like to say that just a couple things, because I won't be fighting for the spot because I'm not going to be on council, but it doesn't mean I won't get involved. I just won't be official. But yeah, with a couple thoughts as I was talking with Amir about it initially. I mean, we didn't actually talk about the formal proposal, but we talked a lot about, through his eyes and friends and what he sees, what are things that you like about Carlisle, and then what are places or opportunities. And so it did make me think about a couple things. The Parks and Recreation Comp Plan, I think, is definitely an opportunity in thinking of. So even, I didn't bring this up to him, but with the work that Jared has done with the community garden, like something someone saw an area, brought up an idea, but a lot of times youth don't know what places we own, what places are open for activation, and so I think simply looking at our spaces, what are underused, what are ways that we could have students be more invited and have a place, because I did ask, like, if it's like a Friday or a Saturday, is there a place that students gravitate towards? And there is no place in Carlisle that it's instinctive. I loitered like it was my job in Hoofnagel Park in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, because I knew that that was my place. But it was a borough-owned facility. Um, so I will say that there are other things we've talked about. They're not necessarily in the works, but I mean, talking about a transit, like a little loop for a bus. I mean, I've always thought about students and how they navigate. You're talking about sidewalks, and some people drive, but I think that there's a wonderful opportunity for it to expand as to where this guidance can go and be very impactful. Um, and having more voices than less. I like having the idea of having someone here as an ambassador, but definitely I like the idea of it being a council of, a collective of students' voices. So yes, I am excited for it. I am glad that you were able to come present, and I think you're in good hands with these folks to move it forward.
Okay, thank you. And maybe we'll push it to the community involvement committee. Does that make sense from everybody?
I was going to say, yeah, it does. If that does make sense, and so when we do our biennial reorganization in January, I guess there's probably going to be a fight to who gets to chair that committee for the next 2 years. So
It might be the first time we have a fight over that committee. Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks again, Amir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll jump back to the recognition of Staff Sergeant Van Valkenburg and Officer Tadaro, I thought he was here. He was in the back.
Yeah, I'm gonna come to 240 Lincoln Street, hang out with the police. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor, member of council, great staff. It's with great pleasure I have the opportunity to bring to you Andy von Valkenburg. Now, the funny thing is that Andy has been doing double jobs for quite a while. Yeah, he was promoted to the position of staff sergeant. Staff sergeant is essentially the senior sergeant in the police department, the third in command of the organization. I could go through all the stuff that he's been, he's from Chautauqua. Did I get that right? Chautauqua, New York. Worked as a deputy sheriff. In 2000, he's been a SWAT officer, a SWAT team leader, and he's been around. He's got a lot of experience. His wonderful wife, Andrea, is here with her tonight. She's actually I wouldn't say the brains of the outfit, but that would be wrong. Yes. but Andy does a very good job. And what I'd like to do is have you step up, please. And Madam Manager, since you signed this, would you like to step up here with me? This is to make a promotion to Andrew von Valkenburg to his position of staff sergeant. And by the Carlisle Police Department. Now, mind you, this happened a little while ago, so we're just now getting around to making it official. And so, if manager, if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely, honored to.
Here we go. Well-deserved promotion. as I said, essentially the third person in command of the police department. You know, and he's been the go-to guy for quite a while. He's the guy. He's the guy who started with the community, started in the schools. You know, that's why I was trying to hook you up with, come see the police. You know, but this is the guy who started it. You know, ran a class at the high school. You know, highly technical knowledge. He's Mr. Gadget guy who figures out stuff. When I can't turn my computer on, you know, I grab him. I think the manager has a presentation for you.
Yes, I'd like to invite Mayor Schultz down as well, please. All right, we thought that we would take this opportunity as well to recognize not only Andy's progression to staff sergeant, but also his 20-year tenure with us. Believe it or not, in October 23rd, he celebrated his 20-year anniversary with the Carlisle Police Department, and I feel so honored to have gotten to know Andy a little bit. You know, his children. He is a wonderful family man. He's very committed to the career of law enforcement, and I think we are very honored to have him as a member of our Carlisle Police Department. So I would like to take this opportunity to present your 20-year service award. The mayor, actually, I would like to pass that on to you, Mayor, if you don't mind. I think you likely would like to say a few words as well.
Yeah, I think everybody in the borough knows you as Officer Andy originally, right? So, and it was about 20 years ago that I was first appointed to council when there was a vacancy, and I don't think it was until I was first elected a few years later that I got to spend a little bit of time with you. I was fresh blood on council at the time, and so the South Street neighborhood organization was like, grab onto that guy and have him attend our meetings. But by the first meeting I attended, Sergeant Van Valkenburg, then Officer Van Valkenburg, was the liaison to that neighborhood, and they loved having him. Always there for the neighbors beyond the duties of a police officer, and so going above and beyond for all these 20 years, Andy would really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It's hard enough, you know, his last name is Von Valkenburg. Now it's Staff Sergeant Von Valkenburg. He'd be out of breath by the time you finish. You know, but I promised him I would not say that what on the street, the different names that some people can't pronounce it. It's like Von Valkenburg. So you know, it's been, but a go-to guy. You know, you can be very proud that the police department's in good hands with him steering people. Next, Joe Tadero. Yes, please. Well, he grabs his partner. Joe Tadero's been with the Carlisle Police Department since 2020. And initially, he came from Hagerstown, Maryland here. He was a police officer there for 3 years. Joe went through a process to get a canine, which we have a relatively rigorous interview process and training to go through. And Rambo, our canine's name, was a 2-year-old Belgian Malinois, German Shepherd mix from Poland. Rambo was certified through the North American Working Dog Association in apprehension, narcotics, and article searches, and tracking. Rambo lives with Joe Tadero 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and he's responsible for everything that Rambo does. Somehow, Carlisle really lucked out. Rambo is a A+ dog amongst dogs. He's like remarkable. If you ever get a chance to see him on a demonstration, it will actually stun you. This dog is so obedient. You know, I'm still scared of him, but but while he gets him, you know, even amongst the trainers, like I go out to the training sometime and watch the other dogs, and Rambo train, and you know, if you watch them, somehow we really did well. Rambo is far above exceeding the other dogs that are there, and there's probably about 5 or 6 of them that are there, and very, very good. So, of course, we'll do something tonight that'll make me sing. Mr. Mayor, Council, this is Rambo, and you also see. I told you. I think I peed a little bit. So, we really want to introduce you to Rambo, and this is pretty remarkable dog. You know, he has to be for me to be this close to him. Mr. Mayor, anything?
No, I'm not sure who we're recognizing, Joe or Rambo. I'm kidding, Chief. I think it's great that you know I love Sylvester Stallone. You know, we chose Rambo, but I always imagine we named Rambo after Sylvia Rambo, the first female judge in Cumberland County, and the first female president judge in the Middle District Court. So that, but that's the lawyer. That's the
exactly
lawyer.
What it was, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly what it was.
But I know there's a lot of extra work that goes in to being a canine handler, and it's not just your daily work, but it's truly day and night work as a canine handler. And Officer Tadero, we appreciate all that above and beyond. I just talked about Andy's going above and beyond for the past 20 years, and I know that extra work that goes in with that. Probably, I shouldn't say this. We're pretty well into our contract, but probably, the compensation doesn't do it all justice what you do. We'll subtract that from the video when it comes to negotiation time next time. But Joe, thank you for taking care of Rambo, and thank Rambo for taking care of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd just like to close with I'm just, always so humbled by our police officers. And, I know that Officer Tadero, he wanted this assignment badly. He very passionate about what he does, and I'm just so proud that he was able to advance to being our canine handler. I think he does a phenomenal job with not only the canine, but with our community. I know a lot of our new officers look up to Officer Tadero, and we're looking forward to your future and Canine Rambo's future with the Carlisle Police Department. Thank you for keeping our community safe, and we appreciate all that you do for us.
Thank you. Would you mind? Would you mind a group picture with staff? Before you do this, both of these guys are both officers, Staff Sergeant Volkenberg and Officer Tadero, are people that the young guys look up to. These guys are the go-to guys, and it's no exaggeration. I love to brag on them. I actually tease Joe about having FOMO disease, fear of missing out, because he just can't help answer the radio. I mean, both of these guys are guys who are on top of their game and very much involved in the community. Having them there is just super. Would you mind being to take that picture, Mr. Mayor? Yeah, you stand next to him. I think it happened again. Thank you very much. I love you, Brandon. Seriously, they're great.
Rand was ready to get to work. Okay. Move on in the agenda. And next is the meeting minutes. Is there a motion to review and approve the November 5th, 2025 workshop meeting minutes?
So moved.
Motion by the Deputy Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Stube. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next up is Public Works, and I can just kind of jump right in. Solid waste and recycling recap. Mr. Juday.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this again. We've been talking a lot over the past couple years just about what to do with our solid waste program to address the non-competitive market that we're in, as well as rising costs. So I wanted to do a recap of kind of how we got to where we are today, where our outlook is in terms of the financial implications, and then maybe what we can do moving forward. The first thing I wanted to talk about, though, is this Act 101 of 1988. We had touched a little bit about it before, but never really kind of dedicated time to it. And the reason I thought it was necessary to bring this forward, we had presented at the Eastside Neighbors Association, and not just there, but one of the comments we got was, why do I have to participate in this program when I have places to take my trash outside the borough and not have to pay what we pay here? So the borough itself has a population of greater than 10,000 individuals. So the state mandates us to have a recycling program, put something in place that allows us to separate recyclable materials from trash to help reduce what goes into the landfill. In the past, we had our pay-as-you-throw program where we also collected recycling. And under that setup, our recycling was a revenue driver for our vendors who came through. They picked it up and they would get money back for that recycling. And we could sell trash tags, which encourage people to recycle more. Now, that I'll get into, the economics of the recycling market has shifted so that it's no longer a revenue driver. Recycling itself is a cost to our vendors to collect and then process. So this mandate, we're required to provide some sort of service by requiring our residents to participate in it. What it does is it ensures that we're able to achieve the lowest cost by having the largest number of people participating and paying towards those fixed costs. So I just want to touch a little bit on that, since we haven't really focused on it in the past, as to why we have this mandatory participation. So where we are today, in 2018, we saw a worldwide shift in the recycling market. China was one of the industry leads in taking the world's recycling. They implemented policies that were stricter from then on, limiting the amount of plastics that they took in, requiring a certain level of contamination, putting a limit on the amount of contamination that they would accept coming in. As a result, that turned that recycling collection from a revenue driver to a cost. And most notably, we were in an existing contract at the time when this all happened. So in 2019, we were still in that contract. You'll see that we were at $800,000 to provide our service. When we went out again, starting in 2020, that doubled to $1.6 million. So it was a significant change to what we had experienced in the past. During 2020 through 2022, we were still in that trash bag, trash tag contract. So people were paying as they threw. During that time, we met with vendors to go through developing our bid packet and tried to figure out what we could do to help stabilize costs. And one of the options or recommendations was to establish a quarterly fee. And what that did for our vendor was say anybody who should be participating is in fact participating, and they don't have to just rely on people buying a tag or a bag. And hope that they can cover their fixed costs. So we established that for the next contract, and with that, we only got one bidder, and the reason being there was a lot of consolidation in the market, and then a lot of the responses we got back were that there's certain vendors only focused on rural areas where they had a lot of space and could reduce the amount of staff that they had in their program. So we lost the competitive nature on this last contract, and we started looking then at what can we do, because we know at the end of this contract, which ends in 2027, we're probably going to be faced with the same thing, a low competitive market and rising costs. And I just want to say that the borough is not the only one experiencing these costs. When you look at the surrounding municipalities, they're all experiencing very high increases. The borough's just really focusing on what can we do about it and what's in our control. Go to the next slide. So in 2014, we engaged a consultant to come to the borough, take a look at our current program, how our program is laid out, and provide a recommendation to the borough as to what we can do to help lower the costs and whether bringing it in-house was feasible. In September of 2024, that consultant reported to Borough Council that one of the best solutions would be to bring it in-house, and that we could probably most likely achieve long-term solutions if we did that, compared to relying on a non-competitive market. Their recommendation also encouraged the borough to take a deeper analysis, which Borough Council then established a subcommittee in early 2025, which consisted of council members, members of staff, and 2 members of the public, to do a really detailed analysis on the borough specifically and kind of propose a plan as to what that might cost. So here's a snapshot. We reported in July in more detail on this. That video is available on our website, but I wanted to recap it here. This draft plan was developed to be very conservative. It ensured that we would have a day one solution if we decided to bring that in-house. And so we expect that over the next 2 years, which this wouldn't start until 2028, that this would be modified and changed. If council decides to move forward, we'll spend the next 2 years really developing the operational plan for this. But an initial proposal that would work day one is this, and that is hiring 12 additional employees. 3 of those employees would be considered redundancies. Over the first 5 years of the program, we would be evaluating what we really need in the program. They would allow us to ensure that we have coverage if somebody's out sick or if people go on vacation. Our service will continue. This is an important service, and we want to ensure that we had it in place. So we built in all these redundancies to ensure that we could provide the service without issue. We also proposed 5 vehicles. One of those vehicles is redundant. It's anticipated that could be used if one of the vehicles break down. If we have a particular period where there's a lot of bulk items that need collected, that extra vehicle will help us reduce the number of trips we have to take in a given week to the landfill. All those vehicles were set up to be rear loader, and all set up to be the same type of vehicle for the first 5 years. And again, the first 5 years, I mentioned that because that's the anticipated life of a vehicle. So before we would go out and buy a new vehicle, after that 5-year period, we would evaluate if we really need 5, or if there's a change to the service that we might consider an alternative vehicle to replace it. The equipment, the proposal included providing every customer a 35-gallon tote, which is the same as our recycling bin currently, and it also proposed providing them new recycling bins. And over the next 2 years, we'll evaluate whether we want to do that approach, whether we can recycle the existing containers or not. But from a conservative standpoint, we assumed we're buying everybody two new bins, one for trash, one for recycling. And then infrastructure, that is the building that will house the vehicles when they're not being used. Go to the next slide. One of the other things that sorry, I want to get to the right page. One of the other things we did besides just developing the program is consider what benefits might come out of bringing it in-house outside of just being able to do it. One is addressing some of our goals, including sustainability. Do we have the option of diverting more waste away from our landfills to some alternative source? This would give us the opportunity to explore that. Efficiency, right now we have, a certain level of control, but the vendors really focus on their routes, maximizing their profits, and ensuring that they can achieve what they want to. We would have the flexibility to modify the routes to align with our other borough services, maybe to help just quality of life, the number of times our residents have to move their vehicles on a given week. Control, again, we don't have control right now with only one vendor. This helps us establish the rates that we want to establish for our residents, and then also achieve long-term cost stabilization. Flexibility, again, that's just, we can make changes to this program if we wish, a lot quicker than we'd be able to do under a multi-year contract with a vendor. Financial impact, you've seen this graph before. The initial investment, if we were to bring it in-house, is about $3.5 million. And I say investment because it's different than what we have now, where our funds are collected and sent out to a vendor outside the borough. All the money that we're putting into this is helping establish a long-term program for the borough. So a lot of the startup costs include buying vehicles. Those vehicles are here for the borough and the residents. They're seeing that value stay in the borough. Any dollar that we collect above and beyond the program is going to stay with the program and help stabilize costs in the future. Break-even point, so the blue line is our projection for an outside vendor. What we did is we took our current contract, which has 7% increases every year. We just kept that a straight line going out. The red line and the green line are two proposals depending on how we decide to fund an in-house program. The soonest we could achieve break even is in 2029, though you'll see 2028 is very close. If we did bond funding, it'd be a little bit later, but if you look all the way out, the bottom line is there's a significant gap that we anticipate between an outside vendor and what the borough could achieve. And again, those are conservative numbers. So in reality, we may see an even greater gap and additional savings depending on how this program gets structured. So public engagement, I just want to do a little timeline. So we started in February 2025 with that subcommittee. In July, we presented to Borough Council a large packet, which was our research results. These are available online, that detailed why an in-house system would be viable and produce long-term cost savings. We also developed an information portal, which is a website on our website that includes the video, this, and other information that we have for this. In September, we developed and issued a quality of life survey to all of the homeowners that participate in our program. We weren't seeking an opinion as to whether or not we should change the program because there's two stances we were looking at. One is we already looked at whether the costs made sense, and that was what the study did. The quality of life was more about getting feedback from our residents on whether they like the service as it is. Did they have other ideas that maybe we could implement if we were to bring it in-house? that maybe we weren't thinking about. And that survey will guide us over the next couple of years and even after we start the program, because some of the recommendations that they made may be feasible, but maybe not day one. So we sent out 5,500 surveys. We got about 1,000 responses back, which is 17.9% response rate, which was statistically relevant. In November, we did a little bit of community outreach. Jeff Bergston, borough engineer, and I went to the East Side Neighbors Association to kind of just provide a little overview of why we're looking at this, answer any questions they had, and talk a little bit about the survey. And then Borough Manager Armstrong and I went to the Rotary Club. We talked about a number of things going on in the borough, one of which was the discussions on an in-house trash program. And then finally, just a few weeks ago, we presented publicly during the budget hearing or the budget meeting some of the survey results that we've gotten to date. And then today, we're just doing a recap. And next week, we'll have council consider a potential resolution of intent should they wish to actually move forward and get the train moving. So just another recap on the feedback. So we had 1,000 responses, 17.9% response rate. Overall, residents are generally happy and satisfied with the current service and the service provider that we have. But the biggest concerns that they have are costs increasing over time, as well as there not being a option to a tiered option, meaning if they are a low generator, they would like to pay less with a smaller bin, or if they're a higher generator, they don't have that option other than to buy tags. So those were the primary responses that we got, though we did get quite a lot of feedback. So if we decide to move forward, we'll be going through those results in much more detail as we look at the operational design. And then the bottom line conclusion was that an in-house system would be able to achieve a lot of what they're talking about and what their concerns were. All right, the next steps. So if Borough Council wishes to proceed, we'll be bringing forward a resolution of intent next week, which would basically say, go ahead and move forward, develop this plan. Part of the concern is when you buy vehicles, there could be an 18-month wait period. So that's one of the things that, we want that intent in place so we can start moving forward and getting some of these contracts in place well ahead of the January 2028 date. Another resolution that will be coming for Borough Council, if they approve this, is action to support a grant for the purchase of 2 vehicles. So if we are successful in getting that, the trash truck vehicle grants, again, savings that would, be above and beyond what we're seeing here. And then additionally, one thing that staff is committed to doing if council chooses to move forward is as we go through this, we'll provide quarterly updates to Borough Council as to how the program's going. 2 years is a long time, but a lot has to happen during that time, so we'll want to keep everybody informed and be transparent about it. Next slide. And then this updated implementation timeline, I had a similar one back in July, but we've moved through a lot of these. Where we are right now is just the recap and consideration of resolution in December. Once that happens, a lot's gonna kick off in January 2026, where we start really designing this program, evaluating routes, parking modifications, trying to implement some of these recommendations that we got out of the survey. If additional surveys need to happen, we'll design those and get them out, and then of course ordering the vehicles. January 2027, we'll start getting the containers. We'll look at installing that building that will house the vehicles, and then September and December, we'll be wrapping up getting the staff in place, fixing the ordinances that we have right now to accommodate this new plan for a start in January of 2028. That's all I got.
Any questions?
I have a brief question, and
Yeah.
this is mainly because I'm just unaware of how this part of the trash collection system operates. How would our in-house service be for multi-unit apartment buildings and the other institutions in Carlisle, like Dickinson and the law school, that have more like dumpster pickups? I'm not sure if they currently are using private services or if they're using a borough service at a prorated rate, considering their output. So I'm just curious about
Sure.
how that works.
Yeah. So I think it's any property that has 4 units or more. Commercial properties, and anybody who has the big dumpsters, they're all going out and getting their own service. So ours is just for the residential, although we could evaluate that moving forward. There are exceptions. If they don't have room for a dumpster, they may petition the borough engineer to participate in our program. Anybody who's participating now would be able to participate in our new program. For those entities, bins may not be realistic. So we could provide, and I think one of our recommendations was if they couldn't house a bin, they could make a petition to the borough engineer and they would just be issued 52 tags a year that they could use as part of the program.
Anything else?
I just have one thing. This is not for. First of all, this is great. Um, but for the the future option, not for now. But I did see my friend Matt Steinman at work this week. He works at the Dickinson farm with the biogas digester. He is also on the solid waste advisory committee for the county. So, but anyway, he would be open to helping with any conversation about food composting. He knew more than I did. I guess our compost site is not legally allowed to accept such elements right now. So I think that there are opportunities to have conversations if that comes about in the future. So he's a good egg, and he's open to conversation for future possibilities.
Yeah, food compost as well as e-waste were the 2 top items that people wanted us to consider as additional services.
Anyone else? No. Thank you, Richard.
Sure.
Next is sustainable community and economic planning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one action item on my agenda for tonight, and that is that Borough Council may approve a time extension request by Jonathan Jaffe, statewide partners, on behalf of Northside Village LLC, contract purchase of Lot 7 within the IAC land development, more specifically identified as parcel ID number 06-20-1800-089, for satisfying the conditions of plan approval on the final land development plan, Carlisle Auto Industries, Lot 7 of the former IAC site. As per 226-1A, 226-221A of the borough's subdivision and land development ordinance. The request is for an additional 90 days, and the new deadline shall be March 9th, 2026.
Councilor Shiles makes a motion to approve time extension request by Jonathan Jaffe, statewide partners, on behalf of Northside Village LLC. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Thank you for working through that sentence. I had all those
It's
comments.
great.
Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries.
And the second item on my agenda for tonight is a land use reform update by Jared Wolston.
I do have a presentation. I love these templates the PowerPoint makes. Okay, so since this is Brenda's last workshop, I was asked to do sort of a greatest hits land use reform edition. This is, I think, become sort of an annual thing in December. I look back at some of the presentations I've done in the past, and we kind of go over what we've achieved over the years. But in this one, um, the list includes, 3 reforms that were done in 2023. Starting first with the keeping of chickens reforms. So we got rid of the license requirements, reduced setbacks. That was at a time where the cost of eggs was starting to increase, and there was some interest in keeping chickens on property, so we made that a little easier for people to save some money. We made some changes to our comprehensive plan to allow the Frog Switch site to be included in urban mixed use as a former industrial site, which was consistent with our sort of brownfields and urban redevelopment planning efforts in the past. We reduced off-street parking for dwellings, with the hope of reducing costs to produce housing in the borough that would otherwise be used for, creating parking. We expanded access to shared parking, which could be used for residential, commercial, whatever use required additional parking to potentially expand or create new units. The idea was that the money that would otherwise be used for consolidating lots or creating parking could just be used for some legal documents to partner with your neighbor or someone nearby. We added a fee in lieu of minimum off-street parking again in 2024. Another opportunity to work with Borough Council directly to reduce your parking requirements. We added some Fair Housing Act updates that sort of deal with some of the things that were best practices advised by attorneys. We made some changes to UM in 2025. One of the changes was the Carlisle Point Plaza Mall. That was it was a mixed-use district, but it was commercial, essentially all commercial. And we changed that to urban mixed use in 2025 this year. And then the Cherry Street, another former industrial site that was high-density residential. That was an application from a buyer of that parcel, and that was a reform that was advised by staff and brought to the Land Use Reform Committee and Planning Commission before being adopted by Council. We added minimum bicycle parking requirements for big parking lots. So if you have 10 spaces or more for your vehicle parking, you're now required to have some bicycle spots. Front doors must be oriented to a street in urban contexts, specifically within the urban mixed-use zoning district. That way, buildings that are otherwise sort of required to be close to the street are not allowed to have the back of the building facing the street. We added some health and safety updates to the code to deal directly with the Commonwealth's licensing requirements for massage therapy businesses, and added a new use to the zoning districts for commercial, urban mixed, and industrial for artisan industry. So again, that's kind of a unique land use activity that would apply to spaces that are 10,000 square feet or less. It's a small scale manufacturing use that allows retail. So this is the checklist, and this is always kind of a bummer for me to see. It's like we didn't get enough done, but we'll treat it like an opportunity. Accessory dwelling units have been sort of pending for a while. Unfortunately, it has just more moving parts than are easy to pin down. So these are in various stages of review. There are drafts going on. Some of these have sort of legal review pending. So don't hopefully look at the list and think that nothing's happened. Quite a lot has. Zoning and utility considerations were big for accessory dwelling units, and then obviously short-term rentals has come from that. And there's draft language to deal with short-term rentals that you'll see in 2026. Noise standards between the Peace and Good Order Code and our zoning have been evaluated We were able to work with the police department to sort of understand how they use the peace and good order ordinance, and look for opportunities for consistency between those two regulations. Obviously, the police are considering sort of tactical issues under peace and good order, and zoning is sort of your entitlement to create noise with your land use activities. So kind of a different thing. We have minimum EV parking. Again, drafted, going through legal review for big parking lots. We've spent a lot of time evaluating historic land use activities in neighborhoods that are otherwise zoned residential today. We've looked at spaces that were, small stores, mechanic shops, pool halls, what have you. We've talked to the neighbors that still recall those places being used for different things and are now apartments. And the last time I presented to council about ADUs, there was a recommendation to look at accessory commercial units. These are starting to pick up, which is, again, sort of a little bit silly considering we're looking at historic conditions where these were just organically happening, and now we're having to go through our regulations to reform them and allow them to happen today. So again, accessory commercial units potentially could be, say, a first floor commercial space below a dwelling or something like that, or even an outbuilding that's used for commercial use at a residence. Small corner stores. There's a surprising amount of buildings in older parts of the borough that had corner stores, and there's some appetite to sort of bring that back in terms of the zoning regulations. The small area plan, that would be a comprehensive plan and zoning change. We have some funding ready to go for that, provided we get through the next item, which is the urban mixed use demolition ordinance. It's been pending for quite a while. Council is working with some stakeholders to understand their priorities and make some thoughtful changes to that draft ordinance where necessary, and that would encourage adaptive reuse of former industrial buildings. And just for funsies, I wrote just some basic language about architectural style for industrial buildings. So next. So land use reform, the original intent was to look at all the different, adopted plans and policies, look at all the regulations that we have and try to make better connections. These may or may not tie directly into the land use reform subcommittee's work, but there's certainly things that we're looking at within the planning department and inviting the participation of other departments. Shade trees and sidewalks. Andrea mentioned this at the budget hearing, and I'm sure we'll have a deliverable at some point. But the idea here is to try to look at the way that we protect shade trees within our public right-of-way, our standard specifications for planting trees within the right-of-way, and adding some equity considerations in terms of thoughtful planning for tree line corridors that are otherwise inconsistent within the borough. And then our sidewalk ordinance that also has standard specifications and regulatory requirements for maintenance. So we're looking at those things. And then, of course, our active transportation plan, which, again, there's some overlap in all these things in terms of looking at the right-of-way, the geometry of the space, the physical use of different places within our rights-of-way, and the interest to use those by the public. So you can expect those things in 26. That's all I got.
Thank you, Jared. And don't feel bad about feeling like some of it's going too slowly. That's kind of, a lot of it deals with the MPC, and that's the way that goes. But it's a long list of accomplishments that this subcommittee has worked through. And thank you for all the work that you've done over this last couple of years to help make that happen. I know, Brenda, you can't get away without saying something about it, right?
I am so grateful that we created this committee. Like you've, and so grateful that we hired you. I didn't hire. Thank you for hiring Jared, because it was creating the committee, it was having the right leadership and having the right crew of folks, and I mean everyone here honestly could be at that table and they would give additional information that would be super helpful. So I'm proud of the work that we've been able to actually enact. I'm stoked to see what you all continue to bring forward. So yes, it is my favorite, and I am excited to see what keep happening. Thank you.
Anything else? Any questions, comments? I have to say, the one thing that it seems to come up more and more, like in social settings when I run into people, I'll get questions like, why don't you just let people build like little dwellings and stuff in their backyards? Or like, and they love to hear we've been working on that. So it's, we're kind of ahead, I think, of where people are. We've been anticipating that. So it may be taking a while to get there, but we're going to get there. And it seems like more and more, folks out there are expecting to be able to do ADUs. So hopefully it won't be too much of a shell shock for folks once we have that in place, given what I hear over and over again and with more frequency. Okay. New business. It's another opportunity. We don't have anything under new business, but under public comment, if anybody in the audience like to come up and provide any last public comment. Stephanie, do we have anybody by Zoom? Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you all.